I think we're ready to start the meeting.
Turn this.
We do have a quorum here. There's 12 official members of the committee, subcommittee, and we have 8. So we need half plus 1, we need 7. So we've got 1 extra.
Excellent.
The meeting will officially end at 12 o'clock. After that, there can't really be any discussions around the table. I've been informed by, I'm sorry, what's your name?
Cecil May.
Cecil.
And I'm just passing along the information from Jim Cameron.
So when we adjourn, so no further discussions about 2020. Anyway, that's it. We are getting videotaped, and any no votes have to be officially recorded. That's the policy. Yes, votes don't have to be, but unofficial votes, no votes are recorded. And Jamie, thank you very much for taking the meeting minutes again.
Yes, sir.
Great. So we do have a quorum. A new member, Tracy, is here. So she's representing the Mather House. Mather House has a seat on the board. And if Mia can't make it, Tracy comes in. Or if Tracy can't make it, Mia comes in. So they're tag teaming it, which is great. So the first thing is approval of the minutes. Has everybody got a chance to look at this? Hi, Susan.
Hi, Susan.
That's okay.
I had one question about the minutes. Under discussion items relating to 2020 celebrations, should utilize Darien High School. It says NHS high school students. Do we mean Darien?
National
sorry.
Honor Society.
Oh, National Honor Society. Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I should have
Great.
written that.
So Susan, there's a new member, Tracy. Christina, this is Susan. If you know each other. Now the house has 1 seat on the committee, and so they're tag teaming it between me and Tracy.
Perfect.
This is Susan Kidder.
Should we just write that out, or should, because it just got, I was like, Norwalk High School?
Sure.
I'm confused.
I'll put it. I'll amend it.
Okay, great.
So then is there a motion to approve the minutes with that amendment?
I move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Okay, vote on it, please. Everybody in favor say aye.
Aye.
So adopted. So I just want to state the teams. You know, we were really good at staffing some of the teams. Just want to make sure I got everything right. Who's leading the teams and who's volunteered on the teams. We do. Jamie gave us the display case, which is on the first floor here, during the month of January. So right now there's an art exhibition from the high school and middle school, but we have that during January of 2020. So I'll need somebody to think about what we're going to put in there, or a team to think about what we're going to put in there. It's a great display case. It's right as you come in the main entrance. It's right on the left, right on the right. I'm sorry. It's right on the right. They've got shells there and stick pins. You can stick something to the back of it. So thank you, Jamie. So the teams are the Weed Beat Celebration. Jamie, you got that?
Yes.
Kate and Lisa has volunteered. Sarah, you said you may be interested in the Weed Beats.
Oh, actually, yeah, Sarah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I got that. Sorry. Sarah.
Thank you guys for offering.
We're
excited. Very
Let us
excited.
know when we should get together.
Okay. Absolutely.
Maggie's got communications. We're working. Pardon me?
I'm
And
helping her with that
Sarah's
too.
gonna.
And so Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
And also, one thing about communications, we got together with Linda O'Leary, and we will have a site on the town website. So she's going to have us, we work with her, she's going to have us put something on the town website.
Great.
If you'd like to have a link or something to the chamber.
Yeah,
of
that'd
Commerce,
be,
it'd
it
perfect.
would easily, we can link that.
Okay.
Every event that can, that is posted, if it's, you know, March, April, May, or the 12 weeks, every single one can go up.
Education, of course, Sarah has that, and she's got a lot of volunteers. Mia said she'd also like to help. I don't know if she
Great.
wanted to.
Not yet, but that's all right. I know where she
Mia
is.
sent me an email. As far as reaching out to the different organizations, Kate, Lisa, and I'll try to take care of that. Susan's got the calendar, the postcards, the EDM. Bob's got the historical markers, so Al, Ken, and Jim were on that.
Can I mention something?
Sure.
I just spoke with Susan, and she I'll be working with you with communications end, but we could use like another couple people, right, or two.
I think it'd be nice to
postcard.
have one more person
Right.
that could help with the calendar and gathering the information, but we'll need, it needs to be unified in terms of its graphic design and branding with everything that happens with the town, so it should really probably go under communications.
Right. So
I'm that's just the way I'm sort of thinking, or marketing, or if marketing's gonna be part of communications and, so it's all,
I bet you Bob will
Unified.
sign on to that too. So Bob and I probably I'll let him know too. So but
I think the look of the calendar is really gonna be important, so whoever is sort of coordinating the look of everything,
Mhm.
should be part of that.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
The whaleboat is really the Darien Historical Society. It's really not part of 2020, but we're going to have a big visibility in the beach and everything. Then there's the opening and closing in the time capsule. I've contacted some people and they're still getting back to me, but that's still I've got to staff a little bit. So with that, we'll go to the logo and education. Sorry, you want to take it away?
Logo is, sorry, I can't see, is still in process. The students met with the graphic designer. They've come up with a design and it is now being fine-tuned so that it can be presented to you, not ready. I shared with Al, the most fascinating part of this whole process was to put 3 students who, they're all juniors. They know each other, but they're not like best friends. In a room with this graphic designer, they all discussed various aspects of the things that we had talked about as well. They took all their designs into, in the thought process. The next meeting I had with the students, I bought them all milkshakes. And I bought a whole bunch of markers and pens and paper, and I said, now do it. And we sat at the library, and I wished I had videotaped it because it was an absolutely wonderful collaboration of the 3 students. They deemed the girl as the artist, and one of the boys had his computer out and was looking at different logos from all over around the country for the various things. We looked at logo Emmett Wilton, as you had discussed. Somebody found one from Iowa. It was just wonderful to watch. It was, I'm sorry I didn't videotape it, but I'm really proud of them all. And after about an hour and 20 minutes, they said, here, and here's our color scheme, and this is why we don't want to use the color red, by the way, and this is this, and this is this. It was very specific, and it's now being looked at, and they have 3 different versions, so you'll have it next
Wow,
time.
that
It
is
was
so
really
awesome.
fascinating to see the 3 of them. I have asked them all to write up a bio on themselves, just a paragraph, so that you all can see who they are. Not one of them is an art major, and they all chose this for different reasons. Their love of town, the thought that it would be cool to be invited. One is more of a merchandising guy. I can't explain it, and again, I'm really sorry I didn't videotape it, but I'm super proud of what they've done. So
Sounds like a
hopefully
great
next
art.
time. It is. It would be really great. And they're all excited to be part of it, so stay tuned. In terms of education, I am starting with putting the bug out there in terms of the teachers that I'm running into. I actually run the 5th grade bus tours around town that will begin in 2 weeks. And so I'm actually telling a lot of the teachers and the students and the parents and all of that next year is going to be really big, and not everybody gets it, but they will get it. And they're very excited. All the students I work with are very excited about it. So we'll
When
get
you
there.
say people don't get it, do you mean the parents or the teachers?
For
Or both?
a little of both. They're not, because I think people just don't know the history. They don't realize, 18, 20, 20, 20. We have to tell them that history. They all come up with different dates. It's very interesting. You'd love this, Ken. They all come up with different dates, so when you say 200, they're slightly confused by it. So it'll be really exciting, I think. I think we'll have a great time doing that.
Excellent.
That's right.
Yeah, we should get a lot of press with this, right up in the papers and everything.
The teachers are very
Advertising.
excited.
Oh, great.
Very
'Cause I know they weren't really on board initially, right?
Again, because I think it just wasn't on their thinking right now. But as we go into fall, finish with the spring here and go into fall, they'll definitely be there.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
So.
Okay, great work. Then it's the postcards, the
Yeah.
EDM.
Okay. I went out and got, there you go, do you want to pass those around? I got 3 bids. I went off of the items that we said that we liked at the last meeting. So we had the trifold, which would go out in January. The springtime, whether it's April or May, would be a card. So, and then we would do something after Labor Day, another card, and you wouldn't do a 4th because you're at the end of the year and it's over. So we would have the trifold and 2 cards, unless you wanted to squeeze that window in and do trifold, card, and then you come back from summer and card. Which I don't really think we need to spend all that much money doing, but that would be up to the committee. So then we had a card that was like this. The reason why it's cut off is I gave a sample of the paper to somebody. So we're looking at like 100-pound paper. And then the other card would be more this size, but you can see how flimsy this is, so it would be 100-pound cardstock, which is thicker than this. Okay.
What size is that?
This is on my on my quote here. Did you get a copy? It's coming around.
Oh,
The size of the,
thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, I was writing.
Okay. So this will have that's yours. This will has everything on it. So this is the trifold. This is the single card that's 6.5 by 9, and this is the single card that's 10.5 by 6. Okay, so you have 2 components. You have printing and you have distribution. So the printing card is under number 2. This is where you have the most variable. These are the 3 different companies. ePod, which is executive printing here in town. They gave me a very loose ballpark. Minuteman Press gave me a more fine-tuned quote. And then on the back, Action Letter, which is owned by Ellen Connery, who is a resident here in town, and has, I don't know if it's her company or if she's just been there for a really long time. She's extremely thorough. Action Letter gave me a bid. I met both of the other 2 companies at the Expo, Multi-Chamber Expo up in Norwalk, and that's why I called them. And they do an awful lot of work with the EDDM programs. So you can see the varying prices. For the trifold, ePod is $4,600, Minuteman Press is roughly $4,600, and Action Letter is $4,100. Then,
Susan, I just got a quick question on this. So the 3 things you have, and I have looked at your email a while ago, I don't have the kernel on the record copy. But this is per mailing, so it'll be 3 times this? If we decide on
well,
3?
that you do 1 trifold, so that's the cost for the trifold.
This is the cost to mail the trifold.
This is the cost to produce a trifold and print it.
Okay, so the 4607.
Yeah, so you have printing costs and you have distribution costs.
Right.
Because the distribution costs are pretty consistent in terms of the number of households. You're basing that on, this is at the top, number 1, delivery EDDM. So it doesn't really matter whether it's a trifold or it's a card. you're still going into, let's say, 8,300
Right,
addresses.
right.
Okay, and so that would be the cost, and then I would recommend that you would also print overruns over the delivery cost. So you might just go to a round number like 9,000. So whether you have 8,100 households or you have 8,300 households, that would determine the number of overruns that you would have to leave at town hall, to have at all the stores or organizations around town. Okay, so that's the delivery.
Right, so the delivery is 1,566.
Yes.
And that'll be multiplied by 3 or by 4.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay, so then
Okay.
you would go into your piece that's actually going to be mailed. So your first piece would be the trifold, and this has a cost of between $4,100 and $4,600, depending on the printer.
And is that for a one-time mailing or for all 3 mailings?
One time
So that-
for this trifold. That's the cost to make this.
Got it, so.
Okay,
we're
and then you
talking-
have creative costs.
Absolutely, so we're talking about if we do 3 times the 46 plus 3 times the 1,500.
Well, you wouldn't do 3 trifolds. I
Okay.
think the committee was thinking that the first mailing, unless I misunderstood, the first mailing would be a trifold. This would be sort of the entire year, like the celebration, photos, explanation of what's going on, events. Then you'd have, I understood it that the committee wanted to do sort of a card that was a reminder card.
Right,
You know, spring events and then fall events.
got it.
Okay,
Can I ask a
and
quick question?
Mhm.
The 4,600, or approximately, the 1,566 that is in addition to the 4.
Yes.
Right, okay.
because you have printing
Right,
and you
and
have
just-
delivery.
Right, okay, got it.
Okay,
Thank you.
and then you have graphic, you have design.
Right,
Okay, so the design is roughly, I'm gonna say 500, a couple hundred, between $200 and $500, depending on the size of the piece, because of course, larger would be more expensive to design. Okay, so then, the single card pricing, which we would do twice, and I think the committee would have the same size card for spring and fall, so that it's consistent with its look. You're just, the logo, the information would just change on what you're delivering. And this, of course, is more cost effective than, it's a little bit less, a couple $100 less, depending on who you're using. This card ranges from $2,400 each time to print to $2,200 or $1,840 with EPOD.
Right,
And then, it has to be bundled and it's delivered to the Darien post office. The number of households or businesses, we talked about saturating the entire Darien zip code. So that includes all post boxes, that includes all businesses, and it includes all household mailboxes. If you want to reduce the cost, of course, you can always reduce the number of addresses that you want to receive the pieces. It doesn't have to go to the businesses. It doesn't have to go to the post boxes. It should go to all the residents. I think it should go to everyone,
Yeah, right.
really. Because there's so many people in business who live here, and I know from the chamber that live here in town, and the
Right,
spouse
absolutely.
works here, but they might not look at the mail at home,
absolutely.
or vice versa. The more repetition builds reputation.
So I think we all got what the costs are gonna be, right? I just have a question. Would there be any, so you know these printers, I guess. Is there any reason not to pick the cheapest printer? Like, they're the cheapest, but I don't like
Well-
doing business with them, they're really shady. Would we just go, because I think EPOD, depending on how we go, but EPOD is significantly cheaper than the other ones.
You
Is there a
know,
reason we
I
don't
think that maybe, you know, I was going through my notes from the minutes,
vote? Right.
and I'll go get one more bid, and I'll go call Total. I love EPOD, they're our only local printer.
They're local also?
They are local, and they're a chamber member, but I have to, they aren't quite as organized and buttoned up as the other two companies. For me, managing something that is so big as this, I would want, it's not loosey-goosey. I mean, we've got a lot of people looking at this in town, including Jamie Stevenson, that I would want it to be absolutely perfect with no glitches. And I consider, I have a more of a comfort level maybe with one or two other bidders.
So,
Without, you know, trying to rip out the carpet from my own chamber member who does all our printing for us, everything.
right.
I have a question. So they are going to be, it says creative costs not included, so the printer will be doing some element of the design, is that?
They would probably do the whole thing.
Okay.
EPOD.
I didn't know if there was like a print ready, if it was going to be designed. I completely agree with you with EPOD. I love them, but their machine breaks down and they don't seem too stressed about it. They're like, the thing you need tomorrow you're going to get in May. And you're like, okay. So I love them, but there's some issues with that.
So
We use them for everything too.
Yeah, okay,
I think
so-
for something like this that is super time sensitive and so big.
yeah, like there's just like no room for error here.
Yeah, I agree.
Total Printing of the Historical Society, they've done like mass mailing for us, and it's
Oh, they
really
have.
good.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do they do your creative?
No, there's somebody else who does that.
So this is something else that we could talk about is that in terms of the creative, I think we should have one person or one company who's handling the creative for everything. You know, if it's so that it has that same look.
Right.
Or we have an established look and then it's sent out to whoever is doing the creative. We love Mireille Chamsor, who is incredibly affordable and very talented, and does work for the chamber. But you might have somebody else that you use.
Right, yeah, so we have kind of a freelance graphic designer that we pay on a monthly basis, and she does great work too, so, but somebody local, or maybe somebody volunteer-wise, like, but we could find a graphic designer who could volunteer for this too, could be a possibility.
Okay.
It's a possibility.
So the graphic design is not the bulk of the cost of this.
Right,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's really in terms of, it's like the penny part of the dollars.
So why don't we do this? You're gonna get another quote?
Yeah, I can call Total
If you want,
and get
okay.
another quote.
Okay.
I mean, I
So
don't
they-
see any reason that we have to, you know, vote on this today.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to put a motion forward, we could vote on if we want to just do 3 or 4
I
minutes.
had a question now on this. Pardon me. You said that there is a mailing would go out in September?
The committee said that they wanted to do something in the fall when people come back
What
from.
would be the subject, what would be the,
Yeah, I think, did we say the fall of 2020 or the fall of 2019?
No, it was the fall
Fall
of
of 2020, okay.
Oh, it was this fall?
No, I think it's this
No,
fall.
it's this
because
fall.
you have to
Yes,
get
it's
the-
ready
fall,
for
yeah.
20.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
we
Right.
gotta get the word out.
To wait
Oh,
for
I'm ready.
Absolutely.
so that would be a
Oh.
first mail?
I don't think anything's.
Oh, I totally missed that. I thought we
That's-
were launching in January with
That's
the
fine.
first communication, which was the trifold.
No.
No,
It really doesn't matter
It was in
when.
the fall so
Yeah,
that they could gear up and be
absolutely.
ready.
Because
Yeah, I
the
think
events
we
will
need
all
to-
be over by
Yeah.
September
I
23rd.
agree.
Well,
Maybe, yeah.
I see no reason to spend this kind of money on something in September that's for 2020. It's gonna
Right.
get totally lost,
I agree.
totally thrown out.
Absolutely.
So what I would say is card in September, and it could even be smaller than this.
Okay.
Save the day, save the year.
Save the year.
Right.
Save the date.
Save the year,
Yeah.
you know,
That's a good
versus
idea.
save the date, save the year. Then you come out with this in January, and then you possibly could follow up with another one in
June.
April.
I think
Maybe
I think
not.
We should have three.
We also talked about the card going into the,
Darien, Parks
into
and
your Park and Rec.
Right.
right.
Or maybe it's part of your creative and not, no, it wouldn't be part of your creative.
It would be easier. I can just dedicate a page to it. I mean, I literally make it. So.
I think that's easier than to
Yeah.
do a blowing card.
Yeah,
And it's also much more affordable.
yeah. So, I mean, I already said, we could do a picture from the event this year on the cover with some details, and then I could have a reference page on the cover and then where you could see a layout of like a skeleton timeline and things of that nature.
I mean,
So-
maybe you'd even want this to come out, if there's nothing happening in January, maybe you'd want this to come out on February 1st.
Yeah, I think we can decide on the dates.
yeah.
We can
later.
decide that later. My
Alright.
my thought would be January because February, we did some mailings in January and got a great response. And then the stuff we sent out in February, people leave a week later for school break.
Yeah.
It's like February things start to get great. In January, people are like, hey, I've got time. I'm home in my jeans. Like I'm not at the whatever.
Filling in my calendar.
I think there's a little bit more
Fresh
focus,
year,
beginning of the
thinking
Yeah.
ahead.
So I think what you said, one, the small card save the year, later
Yeah.
on this year. The bigger one, let them know really what's happening. And then the third card as a reminder.
Before
Yeah.
before the big
Before the-
birthday.
Right,
before
For the
big
bash.
birthday.
for the bash.
If you want to
Like
get
May.
a price, we'll kind of narrow it down to that. If you want to get a pricing for those. Should we ever do that? Is there a motion to have her price those?
Well, I'll get another from Total Printing, but we already have the pricing for these two.
Right, absolutely.
So I'll just have to get one more bid and then we can decide.
Yeah, and we can
Okay.
have a bid for everyone for three of
I'll
those.
take some of this off.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
I'm sorry, sir.
Thought on that, the whole design thing, I mean, I know you guys have great designers, I also have one that I could recommend if you need it, but if you have great people, but I think the idea of actually having a designer, as you brought up, everything should be coordinated, so maybe rather than, having it farmed out to it's not a big part of the cost for the printer, but I just think control with the message, if we have one person that's doing the calendar, they're doing this, they're doing, it's much more uniform
I
and
think
it's better for them
really
to.
important for branding.
Yeah, so.
The other thing that I just wanted to share with the committee really fast is this company in New Canaan does a little scavenger hunt called Discover New Canaan. And they called me up pitching the chamber. I said, well, I can't talk to you for the chamber, but I can, I'll share what you're doing with the committee for the 2020. And they were very excited about it. They came down and met with me. They gave me these brochures. They are sponsored, but you wouldn't know that they're heavily sponsored by different businesses. They kind of hide the fact that it's in there. So I just brought samples. It's ideas, a fun idea. They charge with their bid. It's pricey.
Is it
It's pricey. It's $2,500 to do a Discover Darien Spring 2020 Bicentennial Hunt Tour.
And then do people, I actually don't think that sounds that expensive, but then do people also pay them on top of that, or how does that work?
Well, it's $1,000. It's $1,000. 1,000 printed pieces.
Okay.
So it's not that many printed pieces, considering what we're talking about here.
Oh, I see. So then people just take this and do it on their own time. It's not like there's no scavenger hunt event.
No, but you could kind of do something with the different markers. If maybe the company that, that's sponsoring the markers, if you had one company that's sponsoring all the markers, maybe there's extra money in there to do something like this, which is a scavenger hunt to go around and search out the markers around town. I'm just
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
just bringing it to the committee as, an idea to get people to discover.
Schools, or it would be a lot to organize, but
Well, that's kind of what I do now with the 5th grade bus tours, is we sort of see all these fun things, but I think of it in terms of the markers as well.
Absolutely.
It would be a group of us to come up with what would be in here. As I'm reading that, I would just want to read this more to figure out where they're pinpointing things.
So why don't I have their marketing information.
Great.
Why don't I give that to you?
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. question. Why, if they're getting sponsors to like, and I think this is really cool, but like if they're getting sponsors for it, like why do you have to pay for it? Like wouldn't that pay for it?
I think it's their service because they do it all. The
Oh, okay.
sponsors don't completely
Cover
pay
that.
for it,
So
yeah.
do you know who purchased this for New Canaan?
They're in there. It would be like Gates, it would be.
Oh, I see. Like the,
Oh, I'm guessing that those were sponsors, the way it's written.
yeah, so the sponsors pay for it then.
You know, I don't, you know, it was a really quick meeting, we talked about
Right.
it.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I think we want to do something for the markers to tie them all together, and
Right.
some brochure or something to hand out.
I actually,
You know, maybe whenever at the birthday bash we can hand these out, it'd be perfect, or at the opening for the Historical Society in March.
That's all right.
We need something to tie it all together. with.
It's a really cute idea, you know, so, not that you use it, but it's an idea that maybe, you know, we can do our own twist on it.
I had heard of somebody that actually takes your town pictures and turns it into a coloring book. They do it for real estate agents so that we can have our own coloring book made to give to our
Well,
prospective
right in
buyers.
that, you can
But I
have a
was
map.
thinking, you know, that's, I think this is better.
Mhm.
But,
They did for Milton too, they had a little book.
Right.
That they sold at the Historical Society
Right.
for kids.
right, and so it's a coloring book which you can incorporate both, but kind of like this better.
Well,
It encompasses everybody.
there's a word search, there's a calendar, there's.
Yeah, yeah,
Childlike
it's,
quality
yeah,
too.
the coloring book is great, but it's limiting.
And remember too, the
Age
Garden
wise.
Club of Darien had a complete brochure on every graveyard in this town.
Right, we have that.
You have, you got it?
Yeah,
Okay,
the graveyard book. That's fine. We have it.
okay.
Okay,
I'm done.
excellent, Susan, perfect.
Very good idea.
So next meeting we'll have, I think we have a way forward, we're gonna do
Yeah,
three mailings.
we're moving ahead.
Great, perfect.
Now, how does all this gonna get funded?
That's a big question. So I was at the Monuments and Ceremonies.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed it yesterday.
Yesterday they had a meeting, and we're officially a subcommittee of them. And I emailed before the meeting. I emailed Dave. So in July, there is $5,000 earmarked for the 2020 committee. That's not going to go very far, but he said $5,000 is earmarked. He also said in May, he's got a very small amount of money that's to be shared through all the different committees for monuments and ceremonies, probably less than $1,000. That's like nothing. So there is $5,000 in there. We'll have to talk to Jamie, or the treasurer, and make our pitches. Once we get your pricing and pricing on banners, pricing on the markers, I know Bob came up with some pricing initially. We're going to have to make a pitch. Right now, the only money available to us, starting in July, we can't use it yet because July is the start of the fiscal year, I guess, is $5,000 for monuments.
And it got cut back to that, I think, didn't it?
It did get, yeah, he said it did get cut.
I can't remember if we discussed this last time, but what about, have we explored the idea of getting sponsors to help fund this?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, there's sponsors on the mailings or on the markers. You know, we don't want something flashy right on the markers, but
Right.
maybe something
I know we
away.
talked about markers, but I wonder if, you know how like with Weed Beach, there's groups sponsoring the Weed Beach Festival, or like our event, we have some corporate sponsors, or DAF, you know, has, I'm
Right.
just wondering if maybe, and maybe not to circle back to the mailer, but maybe we have a distinct mailer that goes to the households, and it's slightly different, the ones that go to the businesses and PO boxes and says, these are sponsorship opportunities. Maybe we come up with levels like for a $1,000 sponsor, you're this, for $2,500, you're this. And even if we just give them visibility on like a page in this, even if it's, like I was really surprised at the number of sponsors we got for our event that's coming up in 2 weeks. And we promised them listings, we included them our ad in the newspaper, and we gave them social media. And a lot of local companies, you know, I was surprised at the positive response we got, and I think something like this, where it would be easy to have them in the recreational brochure. If we somehow had the money to put an ad in the paper, the sponsors could all be listed in that. They could be tweeted out, Instagrammed out, whatever. I mean, you know, anything we do, we could just have a little line on the bottom, either their logos or their names. maybe that's what we do, is try to bring in some people to get behind this.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once we have our own page, we can have their logos.
Yeah, we have their logos on the website. And the one thing I would say about that is, so for really local businesses, they're like, I'm going to sponsor you, and you get their check the next day. If it's something that is a more corporate business, they need to, like, we might need to start working on that over the summer. Like, there's like a, Bank of America ended up sponsoring us, and we sent them something in November, and like a week ago they said, hey, we're going to sponsor you, because it took them 6 months to navigate the approval process. So, or if it were Whole Foods or
Well,
something.
you
If it's a
gotta
Whole
get
Foods
in
or
there when
something
they're
like that.
budgeting.
That's, well, and also they have an
you
approval
gotta-
process, so.
They gotta get it back.
So it's something we might want to think about sending out over the summer, so they would have the fall to figure it out with their budget, send it through the right channels, et cetera, et cetera.
So I completely agree. I think once the logo, we'll have it, the next meeting. We've got a list of local businesses we were going to contact.
Okay.
Lisa,
In my
and then we'll have to decide
Okay.
how
to
what
approach that.
venue to put,
Yeah.
because we're going to need corporate sponsors. I can't imagine, since it got cut to $5,000, that's really not very much money at all.
No, it'll go real.
If
If you don't mind, if I'd
we're
like
not
to
gonna get
just
a lot of
add
help
one
from the
other
town.
thing
We'll
about
push
that.
for it, but I don't think we're going to get a lot of financial help.
Right.
I have a question on the sponsors. Are you creating just sort of a chart of dollar figures or leaving it open?
We haven't really delved into it that much.
I think the
Like,
sponsors is a critical element.
Right.
I think it's an incredible opportunity for any company that has a historical significance in the town. Now would be the time to start whispering in people's ears, oh, this is coming up. Maybe we would love to talk to you. When you start to think about next year, could you secure some funds for this? And do that periodically through the summer. And then, September comes around and budgets go, in October. And then if you're too late, you go to them in February like, oh, wish we had known.
We need to do it now.
We already, we budgeted. We got to go into the extracurricular funds. And if you want big, lots of money. So that's why I, saying you're so on target is, you mention it, they fit it in, and then it takes their approval process time to get it to go through.
I think we should, though, send like what we did, and it was surprisingly successful. We didn't even have to reach out to half the people, is we did a letter, and then we had a form that went with it that was sort of a fun graphic, so it would be the logo, 2020, these are some of the events, and then the next page was sponsorship levels. I mean, just you all do that. You sent me something like that about the Lead Beach thing. Like person to person did that. Everyone who has like a fundraiser has specific levels, so it's something they're used to. So then there's a page of the levels, and then there's a third page that's like sign up online, or here, send in this form with your check. And then some people will just send the money back. And then what you do is you look at the businesses and say, who knows someone here? Let's reach out. And sometimes it's just an email and they respond right away. Sometimes you have to get someone who knows them, but I feel like if we send something that they have can send through their channel, and then follow up with the whispers and the chit chats, it's kind of like a two-step process.
I think
Now,
it would.
excuse me, did we not determine that contributions to the 2020 festival going into the town, which is you contribute to the town, and that is a tax deductible contribution? That's a
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
it
because
is.
I think we talked about this in the meeting yesterday, right?
Yeah,
Monuments and
yeah, I
ceremonies.
think it
I
is.
think
Now, whether all of
he
it
said
would
it
be,
was.
I don't know, or whether it's permanent things like the markers. I don't know, but we really need to find that out because I think it's.
Yeah, because it would need to be tax deductible.
Well, is the monuments are they like a registered 501c3?
Yeah, and when we did the Veterans Memorial thing out here, that was all 501c3.
So let's say company X wants to donate $5,000 to the celebration.
Yeah.
Are they writing a check to the ceremonies
It
and
probably would have to be the monuments and ceremonies.
Yeah, you would think so.
monuments and
Right.
ceremonies,
Yeah.
and
Or
that's
a
okay.
town of Darien with a
That's okay to do.
with a mark. Yeah, as far as I know, but you should check that with our finance director or something as to how that's going
I mean,
to
when
work.
people
What we
don't
did,
sponsor
How does it
Weed
work with
Beach
Weed
Fest, they
Beach?
write the check to Town of Darien, and then it gets put into our budget.
And are they given any kind of tax acknowledgement letter? Like, do you then say this was your donation, or like, how does that work with? Because you've been
I'm
doing
not,
that
but
for a
it
couple
could
of
be
years.
coming from someone
Yeah.
else. I could find that out.
Yeah, we
what
need
we,
to find that out.
what we did with
That
the,
is a good component.
what we did with the monuments thing is we gave them a choice of either coming through the town with that earmark on it basically, or sending it through, in this case, Veterans of Foreign Wars, which is a known charitable organization, and then they pooled it with us, they forwarded it to us, so they had that choice. But it was all deductible, I know that.
Right, I think that's an important
It's gotta be
component.
deductible,
So,
yeah, and it should.
but I'm assuming because you've had sponsors before for the Weed Beach Festival, we'll figure it out. But I think that would be a good question to find out if that
I'm
ended up
99%
technically
sure, but
Yeah,
I'm not.
We'll figure that one out, because if the answer is yes, then great. If the answer is no, then we have extra verbiage saying, well, it's technically non-tax deductible, it's some great visibility for the town, blah, blah, blah.
We also have to work in coordination with Jamie so that we're not stepping on each other's feet.
Right, I agree.
So maybe there should be
So-
another committee that sponsors.
Yeah, I think so. It's just for sponsorship.
Can I make one more suggestion? I know this sounds sort of fun, but I think it would be nice to have a slight little schedule on some of the donation numbers, using things like 200 and 2020 for your donation numbers.
And that's fine.
Attach a historic name if you want,
That's
but
super
put a
fun.
little fun into it, and then people will say, oh, I'm, 200, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money, and somebody writing a check for 2,000 can write 2020,
I
and it
love
sort
that.
of
That's
makes it
super
fun. We'll be creative with another number, but
Yes,
I think it
great idea.
it just
2020
creates
times
a-
5.
I know it's a
Yeah.
little high, but it just creates a fun to it where people
Yeah.
might want to say, "Oh, that's cool. I'm going to write a check for that."
So we should have a subcommittee.
I'll help.
This is kind of out of my purview. This is like,
I'll help.
somebody want to lead it?
I will definitely help. I do a lot of
Help.
Yeah,
I can sort of give my 2 cents, but because all I do
What is
is
your-
look for
I-
sponsors,
I
is
know
that
someone.
it really puts me in an uncomfortable position.
Yeah, no, I think that we should keep that Chinese wall, but
Yeah,
does the
I
person
agree.
have to be, can we get help? Like, we have someone that helped us with our sponsorships, and I know she volunteered to do that for the depot. And there are a couple of people I think of volunteer-wise in mind I might reach out to. Do they have to be on the committee to,
No.
so
difference is
I'm
that-
happy to, let me see what I can do about reaching out on that front.
And I have a couple of people as well that I work
All right,
with
let's
on
chat.
education that
Okay.
definitely would be
Because I think
better
maybe
than
we,
me.
instead of everybody quadrupling up, the more people we bring in,
Right.
the
The more
more
voices.
of their friends hear about it, the more energy. So let's see if we can bring a couple of people into, and I'm happy to help with that. But,
Right.
and you
Well,
too.
again, we have our own focuses, but yes, I
Yes.
think there's
Perfect.
definitely people out there.
Okay,
And I have a source that I might be able to tap into for a email list, to do a giant emailing.
fabulous.
Bye-bye.
And I can
So the-
assist in the coordination with Weed Beach Fest, and what we've had historically have had the same support from the same businesses, so.
So we can use all the volunteers,
Okay.
that's fine. There are other volunteers who aren't at this meeting. The difference is if you're an official member of subcommittee, which now is somewhat closed, you get to vote.
Right, I
You're
think they'll
needed
be
for a
okay
quorum,
if they don't,
but-
I think there are people who wanna do stuff
Absolutely.
that can't come to the meetings or
Absolutely.
have
They'd be
not
happy
voted.
not coming to all the
Right, They just
meetings.
wanna
Right.
help out.
Good. So Tracy, Sarah, and Maggie, is that, everybody okay with that? Okay, great.
Sounds great.
Yeah, $5,000. I was surprised it got caught. That's
I'm not.
so the birthday bash, Jamie.
Yes.
We just got a few more minutes here.
So just a couple of timeline tentative stuff I put together. For the actual brochures themselves, our next one that's upcoming would be the fall winter brochure. And for that one, we would be designing in July, so that would be kind of the inclusion deadline for us. And then actual production and mailings would go out in August, probably towards late August for actual in mailboxes. August 29th was our registration date this year, so that meant that it went out a week before. And then our spring and summer, we'd be designing January. The absolute latest would be early February. That'd be pushing it. And then we would have production mailings end of February. For the actual birthday bash, my subcommittee members are now Sarah, Lisa, and Kate. So thank you very much. Very excited to work with you guys. We can maybe...
Cheryl Williams would love to work with you on that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. And I figured we can start setting up some meetings just subcommittee wise. I just put together a very tentative timeline of where I thought we should kind of try to be, and I wanted to also just confirm before I jump too far into this, we are looking at June 13th for the birthday bash, correct? June 13th, 2020?
Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Figured it was worth making sure my date was correct. And then I think just from now until June, the idea would be for the subcommittee to kind of talk about, I'll get into the details of what Wheat Beach Fest is, and then trying to figure out what is going to make it the birthday bash, those things that may outside of what regular Wheat Beach Fest looks like, and kind of our ideas, and yes.
I'm sorry, I just have a quick question about the date.
Yes.
Just because, this year, the date is June 1st, and my only question about is is there a reason it's not June 6th instead of June 13th? And the reason I'm throwing that out there is schools, we find a diaspora between public and private schools. Like, I think more people will have bolted, or they'll have graduations. I don't know. I'm just wondering about that.
So our first year, we were more on the 13th, whatever that was.
Okay.
And we ran into that a little bit with the school. So that was the reason we pushed it back a week, which is why we're here. But we then, I agreed as part of this committee to push it back to the 13th because of June 12th is the day that Darien's got signed.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that makes so much difference. I would go for whenever you could get the people.
I'm fine
I just
either way.
wonder about, so maybe we don't have to make that decision today, but we might want to just revisit that more, because you know how people are. Like, they're booking their tickets now for wherever, and the summer camps and all this stuff. And I mean, we had to cancel our June board meeting because all the parents, everybody had different graduation, everybody had different school start dates. So it might be worth having it a little earlier when people haven't left town yet. Just a thought.
The kids are still in school by June 15th.
This year they were supposed to
I
be out
think,
on the 14th.
wouldn't June
and
12th
it
be the
moved
last
to the
day?
18th.
Let's double check that, because I believe June 12th would be wouldn't that be the last day, the Friday? Right?
But
She said the second.
But they're still until the 18th.
This year they are because of snow days.
But they are every year. We always have snow days.
Okay.
I mean, this year was lean. Last year they had an extra week of school.
I know, it's a good point, but I'm just sports and everything. I don't know. I'm not saying we have to change it, but I'm just thinking maybe.
We did experience that. That's why we originally changed the date. I don't know whether it's in the grand scheme of things a huge deal or not. I mean, our biggest struggle with this event is having actual hands on deck to make the event happen from a volunteer perspective, and that's where we really hit a wall. Was everyone either had sports or graduations, or we had all these people that were we're gonna be there, and then they had stuff come up where oh sorry, we have graduations, we have whatever, and they kind of back out at the last second, and everyone was well, if it had been the week before, which is why
and
we
that
pushed
was.
it.
And what date was it last year?
Last year we were on the 3rd, which we didn't get any negative feedback, so that's why, or the 2nd, whatever.
Because I know that the high school graduation is the 18th, but I guess the little kids are on the 18th. I don't know what to say. I just think it might be worth some people bolt, even if it's 2 more days than middle school and low. I don't know.
I feel like I agree. I feel like if you had success with a certain date, then we should
The 12th,
earlier. Then we should.
The 12th was the date in which we officially became a town, because that was the date of the first town meeting. I don't imagine many people noticed in 1820 either that was really just the official date, because yippee, we've already gotten it approved, the governor's already signed it, that's all happened in May. And then this just becomes a kind of a technical legalization. So if you want to make something of that, you can make something of it. If you want to work around it, you can work around it. I don't think that it would be.
As
I have
of
another
right
idea.
now, the last day of school in 2020 is scheduled for June 15th.
Okay, so I have just another thought on this. You know, if you were saying that earlier was better, and we can keep it on the 13th, but if we decided to move it to the 13th, to the 6th or an earlier date, maybe we could, the 12th is a Friday, maybe we could reach out to like that David Genevieve's group that has the Friday night party and be like, this is our actual, maybe, we, you know, the Friday night in the Grove Street, maybe we could get together with Grove Street and say, we'd like to, this is our actual 200th birthday, let's have a party. Just another thought for...
Right, I think we're thinking about the.
Are you doing a reading or?
Yeah, like an
Oh,
anniversary.
that's
No,
never mind.
I think
Never
that's-
mind.
yeah, I don't
Never
wanna do
mind.
that.
I just thought
I
you guys
think-
were trying to go with something for the 12th.
What I
Okay, keep
what I
going.
had envisioned was to have the birthday bash, kind of a fun thing, kids and
Right,
party.
right.
But then on the actual 12th, it's a kind of a more little
Somber.
solemn
That sounds
occasion. You know what I mean?
I
I want
agree.
to have two parties.
So
No, but you know what,
ring
it
the
can
church bells.
actually be
We're going to have
great
readings
marketing.
possibly
I
at
think that's better. I
the
agree.
library or at the high school
I retract
auditorium.
my
We're
suggestion.
inviting some state representatives to make some speeches. So I don't
Which,
think
so
it
if
should
you
be
do the birthday
close to-
bash a week before, it's great marketing to bring the people for the
Yeah.
next week.
We could hand out materials. and-
Exactly. Guess what's coming up in a week, and that way you have more people.
Glad I asked. So are we back to the 6th?
I think this is your call.
Yeah.
Whatever
I mean,
is
if
better for
if you just asked
I
me
do.
out of the blue, I would have said the 6th because I think it works better for people. But
I think you should use the most effective date.
Yep.
Yeah, oh, it's, well, 6.
When's graduation?
Is that Maggie?
she said on the
I think that's
15th.
great.
Right now, it's
June 15th.
scheduled for
Yeah.
June 15th.
Is
It's a
graduation?
Monday.
Graduation. Yeah.
Yes.
Which
So
by
that'll
next
end up
winter will
getting
have
pushed
next
out.
Friday.
So it'll probably be, I think you're right, it probably will end up being like the 18th, but, you know, I don't know.
Yeah. I think
I,
it's.
Okay,
I
it's
think
your
you're
call. We're good with the
safer
second.
going
Whatever you-
earlier than
right.
you are going closer to graduation, personally. I think that the first weekend in June, if that works, and it's really important for the continuity of the Wheat Beach Festival to be the same weekend.
Right.
So you know what I think we should do? I think we should do a little research on this and look at, the other thing that we should really keep into account is the first weekend in June, one of which we might have with it is championship stuff, right? I mean, that is like all the FCX stuff. We should I think that calendar might already be out. So maybe we'll say we're really heavily looking at June, but let's double check like FCX, any other big conflicts.
I think as far as the Historical Society is concerned, I think we're all in one voice here that whatever you think you're going to get the most
Right.
participation.
Yeah, I agree.
How
Doesn't
many
have to
people
be
did
on
you
that
get
one.
last year?
Around 1,200.
And it was
That's
raining.
terrific.
And it rained. So if we could
Yeah.
actually get a sunny day, I think we'd get a great turnout.
Yeah.
Well, can we schedule a sunny day?
I'm working on it for this year, so I'll let you know how it works out.
We got 5 more minutes.
Okay.
This was great, Shani.
Okay, so I don't really need to get into it. I pretty much put just a tentative timeline, but it's mainly for our subcommittee where I thought we could kind of jump into things and where I thought we kind of needed to be coming into the new year, so we would have some sort of skeleton event timeline for not only our brochure, but also for to make that spring mailing as well. So, but we can set up a date to get together as a group
She
and kind
wants
of
to
go from
also,
there.
so, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, for the spring mailing, we'll have to have something in February, you said, right?
Right.
Got it, okay. Historical markers, Bob isn't here. Last meeting, we said do all 12, which we'll try to do, but I think what we'd like to do is Ken put a list together, the 12. I think it grew by a couple. He prioritized them. I think everybody got a list, but I'll send them out again. I think we'd like to work on the top priorities first, just to make sure, you know, we don't bite off more than we can chew. Work for the top priorities to make sure that we can get those done, and then try to work on the rest as well.
We need a budget too on that.
Absolutely, yeah, so Bob did come up with a couple of numbers.
Did he?
I'll have you and Jim and Bob get together and we'll discuss it, you know.
I've been meaning to, I haven't yet, but Richfield has this marker. It's a company that does it. It's Museum in the Streets, it's called, and I was gonna get some numbers from them too.
Okay,
so I'll
perfect.
do that next time.
Perfect.
Oh, and the missing marker, that pear tree.
I looked, I couldn't find it, I looked everywhere.
They finally, Ken was able to get me the information for the producer, so I think we
Okay.
were all looking for the wrong thing. So anyway, I have reached out to them, so I will follow up with you as soon as I get a response.
Is there a marker at Pear Tree Beach? I couldn't find one.
Yeah, it's not a plaque, and I have not been down there to see it. Dave has gone down and take photographs of it, and I have a photograph of it, I think, in my pocket, I think on the,
I could find it.
I saved it as well, so I could email it to you. I sent it to the producer that I emailed.
Okay.
it's, you know, it's like this, and it's colorful, and it's on a steel stand, or whatever, metal stand, and it's,
You can see it at high tide, 'cause you can see it at high tide, I can find it. Anyway, okay. Also, Jeremy, who's like the town planner, I hope to get in contact with him again and visit each site with him to see, is it a private land, is it public, you know, is it feasible to even do it at those different sites. I think that's about it. I discussed the money we got, 5,000 in July, which isn't much. We are reaching out for the opening and closing ceremony. The opening ceremony will be at Betty Espell's gravesite. The closing ceremony is more solemn, but I expect, like I said, state representatives to come. It's a big event, either at the library auditorium or maybe even the high school auditorium. That's what they had last year. Is
I
there
was
any
supposed to
other?
reach out to Mallory about that, and I
Yeah.
will.
Is there, and the time capsule as well?
Right.
So is there any other discussion? Everybody okay? Is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Everybody vote on adjourning? From there? Okay.
Thank you.